Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week: These Savage Shores, number 5. This is the final issue of this absolutely outstanding, masterful work from Ram V, Sumit Kumar, Vittorio Astoni, and Aditya Bidikar. I have absolutely loved this book. This is the final issue, and it completely nails the ending. It's got a great use and balance of themes, tone, atmosphere, character, pacing, everything that I love about a comic book, everything that makes the craft of comic books so amazing is utilized, heavily so, in the pages of These Savage Shores. This is a masterpiece comic book. It's absolutely astounding. I've already raved and rambled on about this enough. I did an advanced review for this a couple days ago. Check that video out if you want a little bit more about it. But These Savage Shores is such an excellent conclusion to what was already an excellent series to begin with. Vault Comics does it again. Ram V and company do it again. These Savage Shores number 5 does not disappoint. If you've been liking this series, I really think you're going to like the ending. It is an incredibly strong ending. And if you haven't checked out These Savage Shores yet, have no fear, it's arriving in trade paperback very, very soon, within the next month. These Savage Shores number 5, pick of the week. Let's jump over to Marvel, though. Powers of 10 number 6 is here. This is the final issue of Powers of 10, the final issue of Hoxpox, the final issue of this big setup, this big rebuild that Hickman and company have been doing. RB Silva on the artwork, just pumping out fantastic stuff. Both Silva and Larraz, and of course Grassi on the coloring, have just been astounding on the artwork on these books. This is a very bold reimagining, rebuilding of the world of the X-Men. More secrets are revealed in Powers of 10 number 6, right? This final issue. Lots more secrets, lots of revelations, things like that, but even more questioning. More of a bold setup for the future. See, I thought Hoxpox was going to be one big thing, and then maybe Hickman would help launch some X-Men books here and there. No, this is what it is. This is just the opening shot, and then we move on to X-Men, which I believe X-Men is next week, isn't it? Let's double check on that. X-Men is next week. So get excited, get hype, because I certainly am. If you've been liking Powers of 10 and House of X already, you're going to really like this conclusion. It's going to answer some of the questions you had, but it's definitely going to set up a whole lot more to come in the future. Powers of 10, number 6, fantastic. Really loving it. It's a great time to be a comic book fan, a Marvel fan, and an X-Men fan, for sure. Speaking of Marvel, Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom number 1. So whenever a villain has a solo series, I always get just a little bit nervous. We can't all be Venom, you know what I'm saying? Doctor Doom is like one of my absolute favorite characters in fiction, period. So I'm really kind of nervous, like maybe if it's almost like as if sometimes when, you do the villain solo series, you gotta kind of make the villain relatable or something like that, and I want my Doom to be Doom. So, that being said, this Doctor Doom was okay. I thought it was alright. The artwork by Salvador Larroca is pretty sweet. Christopher Cantwell, it's not a badly written comic book or anything like that. To me, it's just a poor characterization of Victor. And there are moments where it totally is Victor, at least to me, and this is my own interpretation of who Victor Von Doom is, I guess, to me as a person. There's just some things that are off about it, some things that don't really work. There's some things that are very interesting, and I like this new predicament that Doom is in, but I just don't, this isn't going to last long, I don't think. I don't think it's that strong. It's got some decent artwork to it. It's got some interesting ideas, some interesting situations, but for me, just the characterization, just a little off, just a little bit off. Maybe. It's kind of like Doom going through a midlife crisis in a way. I don't know. I don't know if I'm down for that. Anyway, Doctor Doom number 1 out this week. The Amazing Spider-Man number 31 is here, continuing its tie-in to Absolute Carnage. This is shedding a lot of light on Kindred, maybe too much so it makes me think that my idea about who Kindred could actually possibly be might be wrong, because it might seem a little too on the nose, especially after reading this issue and the one before it. But this is mostly a loose tie-in to Absolute Carnage, really taking its time to focus on the dynamic between Norman Osborn and Peter Parker, the past, present, and the future of that dynamic. Of course, Norman right now is involved in the Absolute Carnage stuff. He thinks he's Cletus Cassidy. He's got a symbiote, and so there's lots of fighting in here too, but lots of revisiting and lots of really not so subtle hints about Kindred's identity in here that almost seem like a red herring to me. Just a little bit. Ryan Ottley back on the artwork. Angular, sharp, clean, focused. I really like his artwork on Amazing Spider-Man. I'm liking overall what Spencer's doing. I think the Kindred stuff's being brought out this is a red herring. This has got to be a red herring, right? Who do you think Kindred is? Let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, Amazing Spider-Man 31 out this week. Speaking of Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy number 15 has a facsimile edition, and as I mentioned on the live stream on Sunday night, this is definitely worth getting if you've never read the entirety of Amazing Fantasy 15, if you've only ever read the Spider-Man origin bit that's been reprinted over and over again. You definitely owe it to yourself to read some of these backup stories. They're really, really fun, and ever since I had my Marvel Milestone edition of this, I have just loved all the backstories in this issue, especially the one with the mummy. Amazing Fantasy number 15 facsimile edition out this week. Absolute Carnage Miles Morales number 3 is here. This is the final issue of this 3-issue miniseries tying into Absolute Carnage. Miles has been taken over by one of the Carnage cult symbiotes. He's now like the new version of the doppelganger or something. I really like the design. Can't wait for the action figure. Like this Clayton Crane cover. The story is okay. It's kind of like a rushed resolution, at least for me. Maybe 3 issues was too short for this story to fit, but it doesn't really feel like too much happened in the story. Just everything that happened just kind of happened real quick. This was really kind of quick conclusion, but it does have a neat setup at the end to tie into future issues of Absolute Carnage. That's pretty nifty. Miles Morales Absolute Carnage number 3 out this week, and Miles number 11 is here. That's right, Miles is here with his own solo book, not tied into Absolute Carnage. This is an interesting issue. Doesn't really get back to the big mystery of how is the Ultimate Green Goblin in the 616 or whatever we want to call it now. What's going on there? It builds up that mystery just a little bit more, has some nice shocking revelations, some interesting character moments, and some nice dynamic artwork. Overall, I'm really liking this book. I think it's been getting better and better. Saladin Ahmed's really finding his voice on the character, not only of Miles Morales, but on Brooklyn, and I'm loving it. Miles Morales number 11 out this week. Contagion number 2. So it's weekly. It's Halloween time. It's October. I decided why not check in on issue number 2. I thought issue 1 was okay. It has some great moments, has some interesting ideas. I like the throwback to some of the cheesy old 80s movies and stuff like that, but it didn't really hook me. But I came back for issue number 2, and it still didn't hook me. It was okay. It's got some nice work with Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Just an interesting idea, but ultimately, especially for a weekly series going throughout the entire month of October, it just didn't have anything that really captivated me or anything that really felt unique or truly different. That's just me, though. It is fun, and it's got like some really cool nods to some old school 80s sci-fi horror type stuff. Star Wars Allegiance, the journey to the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. So Marvel did one of these before each one of these new movies, right? They did the Shattered Empire, they did the Captain Phasma book, you know, all these like lead-ins to whatever, right? So this is supposed to be a very important lead-in into Rise of Skywalker. How important? It's not going to be so important that you're going to go into this movie and feel lost. Like, man, if only I would have read that comic book that I never heard of. The comic book itself is okay. It does pick up where those characters are right now in between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. So if you're a big fan, want to know all the information that's presented, definitely check it out. But ultimately, to me, it's just kind of all right. It's just all right. I don't know. It was just kind of okay. Let's jump over to DC. The Batman's Grave is here. This is a new #1 issue of a 12-issue miniseries written by Warren Ellis with artwork by Brian Hitch. That's fantastic. Ellis and Hitch back together again. They did amazing work on Stormwatch Authority. Check out our Comics Revisited episodes on both of those titles if you haven't already. But The Batman's Grave reunites this team. Warren Ellis on a Batman book, I'm always down for it. Brian Hitch has really turned another corner in his career. His artwork's gotten even better than it had been over the last few years. The artwork is solid. The coloring by Alex Sinclair. I'm pretty sure it's Alex Sinclair. Yeah, and Kevin Nolan's inking. Kevin Nolan inking Brian Hitch is really adding a different kind of dimension, but it's very textured, and I really, really like it. I love the artwork in this one. I think it's really strong, especially from Brian Hitch. The story's really cool, too. It's not going to be like one of the best Batman first issues you've ever read or anything like that, but it's an interesting mystery. But what's more interesting is how Ellis is showing how Batman puts himself into the place of the victims when he's trying to figure out and solve crime. Some interesting stuff. If you're one of those people that's always like, I want my Batman books to be more detective oriented, you're going to be really satisfied with the Batman's Grave. I don't think this is tied into continuity. I don't think it really matters. This is a Batman character that we all know and love, and a good story is a good story, and it's Ellis and it's Hitch, and it works. It's not the craziest, wonkiest Ellis stuff, but of course it's licensed Batman material, but it's very solid, and I really enjoyed it. Thought it was really super cool. From DC Black Label, Joker Harley, Joker Harley, Criminal Sanity. So, yet another DC Black Label book involving a Bat villain, Harley Quinn, Joker. I guess there's this Joker movie out or something like that, but the Harleen book just came out a couple weeks ago. Now we got Joker Harley, Criminal Sanity. I really liked this one. I was not expecting much out of this. I knew it was going to have some really nifty artwork, but aside from that, didn't really know what to expect. This is basically, it's an Elseworlds type tale, and Harley Quinn is like a criminal profile. So she profiles serial killers for the GCPD. And Joker is a serial killer in Gotham who has never been caught, still very mysterious, and hasn't struck again in years. And now it's a cold case, but Harley Quinn can't let it go because she has personal connections to it. I really like this. It's a complete reimagining of Joker and Harley Quinn, their relationship, what they're actually doing. I love this version of Harley Quinn. I love the artwork. It's got bits that are set in the present day of the story, bits that are set in the past. Miko Suawan and Mike Mayhew do the artwork. Suawan's artwork is the black and white bits take place in present day. Mayhew's stuff, I believe, is the colored bits that take place in the past. That's an interesting style choice. Usually, things that take place in present day are colored, fully rendered, and the stuff that would be like flashbacks would be a little bit more muddy, maybe the black and white stuff, right? They kind of swap that here, and it actually kind of works to an interesting effect. The artwork, when it switches to the past, is very realistic, and it looks really sharp and good. Both art styles are good and distinct and unique in their own ways, but they work together with the tone of the story. And it's a really interesting thing. If you like books, or if you like movies like Seven, if you like serial killer type stuff, and there's even this whole lesson that they give in here about serial killers and our fascination with them and stuff like that, I really liked this book. I thought it was pretty cool. It's going to read a bit cliche, like something you've seen before, some kind of hard-boiled, serial killer crime fiction story from a detective or profile's point of view. But it worked for me, and I really liked it. This is what DC Black Label should be about. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's big, it's thick, it's $5.99. Doesn't have as many pages as, say, Harleen or The Damned, but I liked it. I liked it. So far, to publishing date, my favorite DC Black Label book. But I have read Joker Killer Smile by Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino. That one is going to be fire. But this one's going to be like a 9-issue series or something. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really did. Year of the Villain, Joker. It's a one-shot. We're all hype about it because John Carpenter is writing a Joker story. Now, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan, and I know my John Carpenter comic books. Basically, what I know is enough to know John Carpenter's not writing this book. John Carpenter probably came up with some ideas. Came up with this. I can see John Carpenter's influence on this story, but he didn't write this story, okay? So don't take this as a slight against Mr. Carpenter, who's I'm a major respecter of his work. Anyway, this was okay. It was neat. It was okay. It's not necessary to the overall Year of the Villain stuff. None of these really have been. It's a decent spotlight on the Joker, but it's not even really so much a spotlight on the Joker. Seems like a little bit of a missed opportunity. I would really like to see more of what is John Carpenter's actual take on the Joker. We just had that Joker movie, and that's a different take on the character. And the Joker's one of those characters where you can do different takes. But it's an alright story. It's decent. If you're the hugest Joker fan, definitely check it out. If you're just a big John Carpenter fan, definitely check it out. But we know John Carpenter didn't sit down and write this whole thing. Come on, we know that. He's got a co-writer. I'm pretty sure he did everything. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just saying, book's okay. But I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. It's Halloween time. You watch any John Carpenter movies? Secrets of the Sinister House is a giant one-shot that DC released. They release these things every October. Every season, they kind of got one theme for every holiday. This is the Halloween one. A bunch of horror stories in here involving DC characters. Really cool stuff. The spotlight in here for me is the Adam story, The Footsteps of the Old Worm. It's written by Dan Waters with Sumit Kumar on the artwork. That's right, the artist, right, of These Savage Shores and the writer of Deep Roots and Lucifer. Fantastic one. That's my favorite. There's also some really cool stuff. Raphael Albuquerque has a Red Rain Batman story that's really, really neat. There's a really cool John Layman, Jorge Fornes House of the Dead story. Some decent stuff. Even a Brian Hill Constantine story. So it's $10. It's 80 pages, but it's kind of satisfying to have some of these fun DC-oriented horror stories around Halloween time. Event Leviathan number 5 is here. The penultimate issue. I'm not liking it. Just not liking it. Once again, people standing around talking. It seems like they clear off some suspects, and we're very close to a reveal. The only thing I'm really liking about this book right now is Alex Maleev's artwork. I've always loved his artwork, and I think it's just so good in this series. But I'm just not liking the story. I'm not interested in this mystery. It doesn't feel important. It doesn't feel big. It just it's already lost me, and I'm done. And now I'm just sticking around. I just want to know who in the hell is Leviathan. We'll find out, right? Superman number 16 is here, speaking of Brian Michael Bendis. This is a nice little one-shot story reuniting Jonathan Kent with Damian Wayne. So Jonathan has come back. He's now a teenager. Damian is still the same age. There's going to be this weird thing going on there, right? One of the saddest things about Bendis up-aging Jonathan like this, and there are rumors that he's going to be up-aged even more when he comes back from the future. But that you lose that Super Sons dynamic, and this is a bittersweet book because it's cool and it's nice to see Damian and Jonathan interact again, but it's also, it's never going to be what it was before. So I'm going to miss that relationship, that dynamic. That's done. I think it's just not going to get back to where it was. The Super Sons, super fun days seem to be behind us, but this is an okay issue, actually, with David LaFuente on the artwork, and that's really, really cool. Well, the best thing about Bendis being on DC right now is he's bringing over some really cool talent with him, and I'm liking it. So Superman number 16, it's all right, but it's kind of a bummer because it's like the last hurrah of the Super Sons in a way. Batman Universe. Issue number 4, right? Yes, issue number 4. This is reprinting the Brian Michael Bendis, Nick Darrington Batman stories from the Walmart exclusive Batman Giants that came out. This has been a really fun story. I like it. Bendis is telling a crazy Batman story that goes into space and back through time and into the other places and things like that. But Nick Darrington's artwork really just seals the deal for me. I love this cat's artwork. It's clean. It's got great line work, a great sense of composition and flow. I'm loving it. This is real fun stuff. It's a goofy Batman. It reminds me more of the Batman stuff that I read when I was a kid growing up before it got super dark with Barbara getting shot and Jason getting beat to death and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a lighter-hearted Batman stuff from back in the days, but it still feels modern and it works. And the characterization is really nice by Bendis in this Batman Universe book. And Darrington's artwork, amazing. Detective Comics 1013, Peter Tomasi, Doug Mahnke, continuing this Mr. Freeze story where he's got new technology he's been given by Luthor. He doesn't have to wear that big, bulky, cumbersome suit of armor anymore. He's got nanotechnology. He's out in the open. He's still badass. He's still Mr. Freeze. And now he has technology possibly to revive Nora, finally. Nora, Nora, right? Definitely seems like the Scott Snyder New 52 idea that Nora wasn't actually his wife, just a patient he was obsessed with, is out the window now. Thank you, Dr. Manhattan. But Detective Comics 1013, solid artwork and a real fun story spotlighting a classic villain, Mr. Freeze. Really cool stuff and interesting developments in the pages. Year of the Villain continues on into Flash, issue number 80, Death of the Speed Force, whatever they're calling the story. I think it's Death of the Speed Force. Is it Death and the Speed Force? Lots of returning characters. Scott Collins on the artwork. It feels like we're reading some of those Jeff Johns Flash days, but of course it's Barry, not Wally. Of course you got new Wally in there. Some interesting developments happening with the Rogues, but it's all been kind of in the background, hasn't quite exploded yet. But I'm really liking what Joshua Williamson's been doing on the Flash since he took over the book at Rebirth. Thank you, Dr. Manhattan. I've said it before, I'll say it again. This has been one of the most consistent books at DC since the start of Rebirth. It has been up and down just a little bit, but it's kind of ridden this consistent, just fun ride the entire time. And hats off to Williamson and company for keeping that going. Batman and the Outsiders number 6 with a really, really weak tie-in to Year of the Villain. Who cares though, right? The point of Year of the Villain is to spotlight the popular villains, the best villains. I think DC's got some amazing villains. I mean, who would argue that? Marvel and DC got some great villains. Ra's al Ghul is one of those villains. He gets slightly spotlighted in the pages of Brian Hill's Batman and the Outsiders. Dexter Soy's artwork, to me, is one of the best parts of this book. I love it. It's got this very fun energy to it, but it really handles those smaller moments that Brian Hill likes to throw in there, and it handles it well. This is kind of like I don't know if this is the end of the first arc, but it definitely is the end of the first phase, and it really sets up some interesting character dynamics for the future and what's to come. I've been liking this book. Batman and the Outsiders, it's kind of sliding underneath the radar, but it's a solid Batman book, focusing on some really solid characters like Cassandra and Duke. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy #2 is here. I usually get quite annoyed with Harley Quinn books, but I read issue #1 of this, written by Jody Houser, and I actually thought it was pretty solid, so I definitely wanted to come back and check out issue #2. It dipped a little bit in quality, but not too much. It just didn't quite keep my attention. I'm not that big of a Harley Quinn fan, but this is not a bad book whatsoever. It's got a nice brisk pace to it. It's got great dialogue. It's got a nice fun flow to it. The artwork is okay. It's a little inconsistent at times for me, but it's an interesting story. If you're a Harley and Ivy fan, definitely almost kind of essential reading for you, so be checking that one out. Gotham City Monsters #2. This is one that I was very impressed with by issue #1, but issue #2 just... it's all right. It started losing me a little bit, just kind of got a little clunky for me. Gotham City Monsters is focusing in on the Monster Town. I love the use of Frankenstein, the Agent of Shade. I love some of the other oddball characters that are in here. Of course, Killer Croc, not quite so oddball, but characters like, Orca? Like, come on, didn't Larry Hama do Orca? That was back, I don't know. Anyway, Gotham City Monsters #2, for me, just all right. But I will say this, Steve Orlando's work usually works better for me when I read it all in one big chunk, so maybe this is something I should trade with. In fact, I probably will. Wonder Twins #8 is here. I'm loving Mark Russell's kind of tongue-in-cheek, doesn't take itself too seriously, but still has a point, and it still has tinges of relevance in the midst of all this absurd humor take on Wonder Twins. I absolutely love it. We got a guest artist on this one. It's Norton. Who Norton? Mike Norton, and the art works just fine, kind of feels right along from Stephen Byrne's style. I'm really liking this story. Like I said, it's lighthearted, but it's got some substance to it, a little bit of nuance, but it's also just very absurd and crazy and wild. Wonder Twins #8, if I told you at any time in my life that Wonder Twins would be one of my favorite comics at DC, I would have slapped myself silly. But it's true. Wonder Twins is really fun. I'm loving it. Wonder Twins #8 out this week. And from DC Young Animal, we have Collapser. Issue #4. Got some wild, crazy, bonkers moments. So the story feels like it's starting to get a little predictable, a little bit boring in the last issue. And then in issue #4, it kind of amps it up, gets real crazy, has some new ideas thrown in there that tinge my interest just a little bit more. Mikey Way, Sean Simon, and the rest doing a fantastic job. Just doing a really fun, quirky, oddball book. Kind of tackling some real issues, but doing it in a very flamboyant and cosmic and weird and wacky way, just like DC Young Animal's supposed to. Collapser #4 out this week. From Aftershock Comics, we have Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated #1. This is an interesting comic book. I really like the concept of it. The execution of it's pretty interesting too. It's very technique heavy, and it's really cool. It's got really weird, wild artwork and a great sense of color. It's got a wonderful palette to it, a nice sense of flow, and one of the best letters in the business right now, Hassan Osman El Howe, really tying it all together. But it just felt a little unclear, a little clunky. But basically what this book is about this giant mega store. Think like a Costco or Sam's or something like that. And I guess at some point in the future, right? And there's a very trigger-happy loss prevention specialist run amok, right? And it's just wild, it's weird, it's got a lot of commentary that I find very interesting and appealing. There's just something in the execution, something in the presentation just didn't quite latch on enough. It was really neat, had lots of technique, had a really interesting story, but none of the characters resonated with me. There wasn't anything I could connect to human-wise in there. There wasn't a human, there wasn't any drama, there wasn't enough for me to connect to really pull me through in the midst of all this cool, crazy technique and ideas. It's a well-done comic book, but it just didn't resonate with me enough. I don't know. Shoplifters Will Be Liquidated #1 is interesting, but I don't know. I don't know. Scout Comics releases Gutt Ghost #1. I don't know. I think this is a one-shot. I don't know if this series... I don't know anything about this. Apparently, this is something teased in their free comic book day offering, in which they also teased Midnight Sky. But it looked wild enough for me. I said, yeah, let's check it out. This book was crazy. I really liked it. Enzo Garza is the writer and illustrator. It's wild. It's weird. It's off the wall. It just goes for it. It's just goofy. It's got a really weird sense of... It's got weird artwork. It's got real weird bits. If you like weird, quirky, indies type stuff, different, unique art styles, definitely check out Gutt Ghost if you see it at your shop. It's a ghost with his guts all sprawled out. I mean, look at that. It's got lots of weird, wild characters like Pizza Ghoul. Interesting. This book was really interesting. Like, seriously, it's not going to change your life, but it's wild. It's weird. If you like weird, wild, just crazy stuff, check it out. Fans of the Goon might want to check this out. Fans of Peter Bagg might want to check this stuff out. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. Gutt Ghost was pretty interesting and one of my comics to look out for. Speaking of looking out for, this is going to be a big one this week. Spawn issue number 301. So I read number 300, so sure, why not? Let's give 301 a chance. It didn't really do much for me. I did, once again, like that first chapter drawn by Greg Capullo. I thought that was interesting, a really new, interesting twist and take on Spawn. And I'm kind of interested in that. The rest of the book, wasn't very interested in it. I just don't think Todd McFarlane is that strong of a writer. I think he's a great creator. He obviously has done amazing things. This book has broken the world record for the longest running creator-owned title. I think it beats Erebus, right? So hats off and kudos to Todd McFarlane. I'm happy to see someone do it. So yeah, thousands of pages, hundreds of characters, dozens of creators, 7 image partners, 3 decades, 1 record. There you go, from 92 to 2019. So big Spawn fans, I think you're going to find something to like about this. Some new things are coming in the pages of Spawn. Some new ideas, some new concepts, and I think that's interesting. I think that's super cool. I think a book always needs to be refreshed and a little bit of a different spin put on it. So it's interesting enough what's going on in that first chapter for me, but the rest of it, and it's been a long time since I read Spawn, y'all. Long time. So I am, of course, going to be a little bit lost. Coffin Bound number 3 is here. This book is weird. This book is compelling. This book is confusing. This book is fascinating. This is such a dichotomous nature to this book in the way that I experience it. There are parts of me that are revulsed by this book, and there are parts of me that are just attuned into this book. It's got a mix of philosophy with this, like, grindhouse sense of grime and slime and grit and dirt, but this, like, really elegant use of language and thought. This book is so hard to peg down. That's one of the things I really like about it. It's written by Dan Waters, artwork by Danny, Brad Simpson on the colors, I believe, Aditya Bidikar on the lettering. My favorite letter in the business right now, and there are lots of great letters. Coffin Bound is really cool. If you like Sandman, but if Sandman was a little too simple for you, you want something a little bit harder to get into, Coffin Bound. And I say that in the absolute best way. I mean that. This book is challenging in the best way that word entails. It challenges me as a reader. It challenges me as a thinker. It challenges me as a human being. And I like stuff like that. Coffin Bound number 3, really unnerving, off-kilter, violent, but really something about it just straight to the core. You know what I'm saying? Coffin Bound number 3 out this week. From Image Comics also, Ice Cream Man number 15. Ice Cream Man, you want to talk about an unnerving comic book. That's what Ice Cream Man is, especially this issue. There's like a slow progression into insanity in this issue, and I love it. Psychedelic, bitter, sickly, sweet. Oh man, this book has just been amazing. W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo, Chris O'Halloran and company. Oh my goodness, the design, the lettering, the colors, everything in this book is always so perfect. Ice Cream Man is a near perfect comic book to me. It's a bunch of single issue stories. It's easy to call it a horror anthology, but it's more of a strange horror sci-fi fantasy anthology with one story kind of tying everything together. however loosely, but very, very compellingly. I absolutely love Ice Cream Man number 15. To me, one of the best comic books of the week. The descent into madness and the way it's revealed and the way it involves the reader. This book is innovative, it's imaginative, and it's never disappointed. Ice Cream Man number 15 out this week, and it is awesome. Thumbs number 5 is here. This is the final issue of this really fantastic sci-fi action book from Sean Lewis and Hayden Sherman. I'm a huge Hayden Sherman fan. I love his artwork. He's the artist of Wasted Space. Recently also in Mary Shelley Monster Hunter. Thumbs is fantastic. He's worked with Sean Lewis before on The Few. Excuse me. Thumbs has worked on, they've worked together on The Few before. Thumbs is a fantastic book. I really like it. It's a very satisfying, tragic conclusion. It's a great story that says a lot about like technological addiction, society's dependence on technology, science, like just a whole bunch of different stuff all coming together with a beautiful package. The artwork is really unique. It's different. It's bold. It's striking. Thumbs number 5, a fantastic conclusion. The presentation on everything too, the thick paper, the glossy covers, everything, the backup stories, everything about Thumbs has been such a great experience. Sean Lewis, Hayden Sherman, they really nailed it with that one. Sonata, issue number 5 is here. Now, I don't know. Yes, next there's another issue left. This is, I think, the penultimate issue of this book. Hopefully this book keeps going because I really like this book. The characters that are introduced, the relationships that are building, and the world building that's going on. Lots of interesting things in Sonata. It's a sci-fi fantasy, but it's really compelling, really interesting. And the artwork by Brian Haberlin and Gerard Van Dyke is absolutely astounding. I've talked about it before. It looks like it uses some kind of like 3D computer technology, and usually that feels stagnant and stiff, but it doesn't in this book. It really works with the art. It really works with the story. This book looks amazing to me. I really have found the characters to be endearing and charming, and Sonata number 5 was a fantastic issue that had me really excited to come back for issue number 6. Unearth number 4 gets more Lovecraftian, more weird, a little bit more sparse, a little bit more quick. The artwork seems to kind of have simplified just a little bit, maybe just rushed a little bit, but the story is amping up. This book is crazy. So basically they found this cave, there's these like crazy mutated monsters coming out, and then you get a big, clearer picture, if you will, about what's actually happening in Unearth, and it's wild, it's fun. If you are a huge Lovecraft fan and you haven't been reading Unearth, what's wrong with you? I'm telling you, you need to. This is awesome, especially for Lovecraft fans. Unearth number 4 out this week, written by Kyle Strahm and Cullen Bunn. Redneck is out this week with issue number 24. Donny Cates every once in a while throws in just this crazy off-the-wall issue of Redneck that completely game changes everything. That's what issue number 24 is. Big deal. It's going to be the last issue for a while. It's going on a short hiatus after this one, but it ends this current arc with the hugest bang possible. Absolutely fantastic. Lissandro Esterin doing a unique art style. He's also doing Strange Skies over East Berlin right now. Completely different style. So to see him kind of shift and shape to the story's appropriate tone is really masterful, and I absolutely like it. D. Cuniff on the coloring. It all comes into one fun vampire package. And like I said, Donny Cates, when he wants to throw a curveball, he knows how to do it. One of the best ways in the business right now. Redneck, number 24, out this week. From Dark Horse Comics, Black Hammer Justice League number 4. I got that Francavilla cover because he's just the best. Jeff Lemire's doing a great job with this, taking the world of Black Hammer and the Justice League and mixing it together, and it feels like a Black Hammer book, but it feels true to the Justice League and to the DC Universe. Of course, Jeff Lemire created the Black Hammer universe and, of course, worked extensively in the DC Universe, so this should be natural for him, right? Black Hammer Justice League number 4, really liking it, loving the tone, loving the story, loving the mystery, and big revelations in this issue that we should have seen coming, and maybe we did. Triage number 2 is out this week from Dark Horse Comics. Dips a little bit down from issue number 2 as far as the artwork and quality go for me. It was okay. It wasn't bad or anything like that. Some really interesting ideas that are introduced in this issue, but overall, it's still not working for me. It just feels a little clunky, just a little stagnant. Didn't really quite capture me. I don't know. I might have to trade weight this one and see what that concept's going to do all in all. Hellmouth #1. That's right. Buffy and Angel finally meet in the Boom Buffyverse. Here in Hellmouth #1, it's a one-shot that launches a Buffy Angel crossover. My biggest thing about the Buffy books right now is I think they're kind of, for the most part, well done. Some of the issues of Angel have been really good. And some issues of Buffy, especially the early ones, I really like. I like this reimagining. But I feel like they're still jumping in too much, too soon, and with what's going on in Hellmouth right now, it's like, this seems like too much too soon. I haven't even had a chance, I don't even think they've really had a chance to redevelop these characters yet. You know what I'm saying? And they're already jumping into this big stuff. And I know that some of it is a slow pace, like the introduction of Buffy to Angel has been delayed all the way up until this point. But everything else is just kind of rushed in, and I was like, this book needs some time to, some room to breathe and room to grow into something worthy of being as big as this. I don't know. That's just how I feel. Still some big moments, and it's really cool to see Buffy and Angel meet again for the first time. Ghosted in LA #4 is here, continuing such a fantastic book. Sina Grace is the writer of this one. Artwork by Siobhan Keenan. I love this book. It's great. It's about this woman who goes across country to go to school. She doesn't feel like she belongs. She finds this one abandoned mansion, house, hotel, whatever it is, that she can kind of be herself at, and it's haunted by a bunch of ghosts, and those ghosts kind of become her friends. And then there's a whole lot of real-world drama going around, and it just is a really nice, delicate balance between character work and just really fun, nice, charming moments in the book. I absolutely love it. The artwork by Siobhan Keenan is fantastic. Simple line work, a great sense of composition, and it just flows. I love Ghost in LA, issue #4, out this week. Speaking of Power Rangers, no, speaking of Boom and Sina Grace, Power Rangers, Go-Go Power Rangers, that is. Issue #24 is here. This is one of the best issues of Go-Go Power Rangers so far. It's a Bulk and Skull specific issue, and I'm loving it. Ever since they started the Necessary Evil stuff on both books, it's been fantastic. Ryan Parrott, Sina Grace, co-writing this one together. Really fun stuff. Like I said, this one spotlights Bulk and Skull, and they've done more character work with not just the Power Rangers, but especially Bulk and Skull in the pages of these comic books than any of those TV shows and movies ever did. Seriously. Go-Go Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin, that's where you're going to get some deep, rich, nuanced character work on the Power Rangers and the other characters, like Bulk and Skull. I'm loving it. Fantastic stuff. Go-Go Power Rangers, issue #24, out this week. Speaking of Power Rangers, The Psychopath, an original graphic novel, has been released this week from Boom Studios. That's right, it's about the Psycho Rangers. We just opened up my Psycho Blue action figure on Sunday night's live stream. I love it so much. There's a red, Psycho Red, coming too. But this is going to be so fun. The Psycho Rangers are back in the form of a graphic novel, and I can't wait to sink my teeth into this. But of course, I still haven't read the last graphic novel they did for Power Rangers, Soul of the Dragon. I gotta find that. I need to have a Power Ranger readathon. Maybe I should. Anyway, that graphic novel is out this week. And finally, from IDW, Cobra Kai, the Karate Kid saga continues, is out. Now, I haven't watched Cobra Kai yet. I'm a huge Karate Kid fan, and I am eagerly anticipating diving into Cobra Kai and checking it out. So I didn't read this book, so I can't tell you if it's good. But I did want to let you know that it's out. Cobra Kai from IDW, #1. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. Another fantastic new comic book day. What are you reading? What gets you excited? Let us know in the comments down below. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking out the video. And if you want to hear the video a little bit earlier than everybody else gets to see it, you can always join us at patreon.com/PCP, where for as little as $1 a month, you can unlock an audio-only early access version of the weekly comic book review, because we're celebrating 3 years, and so we're giving a little bit back. Thank you guys so much. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading.